Yes, I'm going to talk about two different instances. So the first time I went to Fandangos was, oof, 2014, 2013 maybe. I got a small grant from Mary Baldwin, where I teach now, for sort of experiential research project. No? And I asked around people who I knew in the U.S. that were interested in Son Jarocho, and they sent me to Santiago, Tuxtla, because I could travel there in, I believe, July, and that was around the time that the San Santiago, the party or the patron saint was going to be celebrated. They said that's a perfect time for you to go because there will be lots of fandangos all night. You're gonna be able to experience that, and I did. So I went to Santiago, Tuxtla, which was beautiful, beautiful. And I would love to go back. Tlacotalpan, just breathtaking, really, really green and with mountains and really beautiful. And I went to Tlacotalpan because I had read and I had heard that Tlacotalpan was a major center for Son Jarocho. Um, where else did I go? Well, in Veracruz, El Puerto, just to listen to another type and experience another type of a little more commercial Son Jarocho. But especially in Santiago, I came away a lot more inspired and more interested because the sound, the way they played it, the ritual, who was gonna sing first, and I still don't quite understand, but it seemed like, I mean, of course they did. The youngsters, the young people, they knew and they didn't mess up. They let it seemed to me from my observations that they let the elders lead, and it was just really beautiful. It was just really, really beautiful. And then a few years later, in 2018, this I remember because it was my first sabbatical semester ever, and I spent a week with La Familia Vega, whose patriarch sadly has just passed away. May he rest in peace, El Güero Vega. Um, and I spent a week there at his home. Again, living in community for that whole week, living as they live in the rancho. Having to bring in water so you could shower, buckets of water so you could shower. Eating together outdoors. Um, and then taking your classes or participating in your classes, and then a fandango at night, every night, besides other activities. But that was a great experience, just to be totally immersed and to see how these musicians live their everyday life, um, and then to know that it is not glamorous. They're doing whatever they need to do in the rancho to keep it up, and then they're playing music, and it was just really, really beautiful. And of course, I mean, they welcomed us, all of us, with open arms. During the pandemic, I participated in an online workshop every week. We would meet every week with primarily students from California. But we had a stellar teacher, Maestro Patricio Hidalgo, who is one of the pillars of Son Jarocho writing nowadays, contemporary, who also comes from a tradition from his grandfather of writing. And so he's great. And he's also besides a great writer, he's a great teacher. I enjoy so much those Saturdays, every Saturday that we would get together. And I stayed in that workshop for over a year, at least a year and a half, if not almost 2 years. Every Saturday, every Saturday. And we were writing, he was obviously directing us, but we would write a lot collectively. All of the students in the class, we would come up with one phrase or sometimes one word. Sometimes we would try to fix it so that it worked. Um, as far as the rhyme scheme and all of that. And that's sort of how I started. We started together, and then he would give us tasks for us to write our own our own verses, our own lyrics, and again, that was such a great um, learning experience. I learned, even though I do teach literature, my area is narrative fiction. I also do cultural studies, but poetry per se has never been my forte. So I have to put in more more into it, more work for me to fully understand it and appreciate it. And so working with Maestro Patricio Hidalgo, I felt like I was able to develop those skills a lot more. And he taught it in such a way that it was very easy for me, for us, but for me to comprehend and be able to follow those patterns to create something new. Thinking about the Mexilachan experience, um, I have to say, I'm gonna say on video, I was very intimidated, even though I had been doing these writing exercises for almost 2 years, or maybe even over 2 years, with a fantastic teacher, maestro. I had never really given it thought about writing something that would become a song, song lyrics like that. So it's kind of intimidating, but I accepted the challenge. I accepted the challenge because I did feel like I had something to say about this, my new or not so new now after 13 years, home, away from what will always be my home in my heart. And so I called it Versos para saludar a Mexilacha, simple like that. Because I started thinking of the tradition of sikisiri, no? That every fandango started with a sikisiri that asked for permission from the community to be able to sing and to versar and all that. And I I didn't quite start with asking permission, but I sort of did. I said, Buenos días, compañeros. Con cariño y sentimiento. Desde mi rincón del mundo, saludo a los cuatro vientos. So I wanted to incorporate that idea of, besides asking permission, you're also greeting everything that's around you, the nature that's around you. And I guess that is a way of asking nature to give you permission to occupy that space. And so I thought I would start like that, especially because, as we were talking about earlier, here nature is so luscious, just so beautiful, no? And that I thought it was important. Los cuatro vientos, of course, making allusion to the four different cardinal points, which are again very important in Son Jarocho, and of course in indigenous thought, no? And philosophy, and life, way of life in general. And so that's how that first stanza came about, no? And then what I said, mi rincón del mundo, yes, this little tiny place of the world that's between the mountains is somewhere out there. It's not New York City, but it's okay. It's this is, not Mexico City, no, but it's a very special place. This little rinconcito del mundo. Ah, I hope I don't cry. And then I said, aunque nací en otras tierras que mi corazón añora, es ahora Apalacha la que mi alma atesora. Um, yes, I often, even though I've been here for 13 years, I am often very nostalgic for South Texas, Northern Mexico, Mexico in general. And sometimes, that nostalgia is very strong. It sort of hurts when a lot of time passes by without me being able to visit. It can get tough. So yes, I still have that añoranza for those lands, right? But Appalachia has had some challenges for me at the beginning that I think I have learned to deal with, but it's also given me many beautiful and very positive things in my life. And so I like it here. I also like very much the I identify very much with the culture of Appalachia in ways that let me try to see how I can articulate this. Appalachia gets a bad reputation or a bad image, I feel, nationally. There's all these stereotypes about people from the Appalachians, and I feel like there is negative stereotypes about my people as well. Um, and so I feel like that already immediately gives me some points in common with the culture here. It's also a culture that's very resourceful and resilient against difficult environments, against sometimes lack of resources, lack of what I think is, national attention. Like, seriously, resources that can be poured into these communities, they're not always. I remember a student, my first semester here, a student from West Virginia, who her entire town, the water was contaminated. And they were, the local government had to bring them bottled water because there was no other way. And I thought that's so alarming, because how long can they sustain this? The infrastructure, that's not fair to them, her, to her grandmother, to the community there in West Virginia. It was a little bit eye opening to me too, not to think that in the U.S. we think we're the most advanced um, country in the world, certainly the wealthiest, and but yet there are some communities who get left behind. And so it's a very special place, and one again where I can find a lot of commonalities with my own background. And but that's the other part. Estas tierras saben sostenerme en pie even when I feel like I'm so depressed and I don't know what to do. Um, all I have to do is know that I've made a family here, and that they are really supportive of me, and they'll always try to cheer me on, no matter what's going on at work or whatever outside of family. And they are part of these lands. They're from here, and this is what they've known all their life as well. And so it's a very nice reminder, no, that no matter how difficult life may be, I have made a family here, and they're here from. Um, then I wanted to talk about what we've been saying, no, just how beautiful it is here. Bellos montes y montañas inspirando mis andares. Hacen que casi me olvide que también tengo pesares. Un poquito más de eso, de lo que dije antes, ¿no? A little bit more of what I said before. Whenever life gets very difficult, all you have to do is take a little walk, or just a look around, and see that, how wonderful nature is, and how generous it is as well to us human beings. Es tu gente un tesoro y tu sonido es un gozo. Muchas gracias, Mexilacha, por tus abrazos sonoros. And I feel that. I feel that in my heart. That people around here, besides my family, my husband and my two stepchildren, and my in-laws, I have met wonderful people here, who have made up for those times when I felt singled out or discriminated, or like I made to feel like I didn't belong. Once I found those individuals, then things looked different for me. The outlook was different. To know that I had people, quite frankly, like you guys, who appreciate not only Mexican culture, but the what two cultures in contact, what can come out of that, and not only two, in your case, even more than two cultures, no. I think that's really sustained me during these years here, and I'm glad that I hope to expand my community here, but I am very happy with those who I have met and have had an impact on me. And so I feel that tu gente es un tesoro, no? People who show you solidarity, who would listen when you have penas laborales or whatever. And in music, I also have found, simply in listening to music, I still can play, but simply in listening to music, music like yours, it's given me a lot of joy. Giving me a lot of joy and sort of the strength to continue, no? And to continue to appreciate these lands. And so that's what this few verses, versos para saludar a Mexilacha, is about.